So I'm going to call the meeting to order. It's 10:05. Can everybody downstairs hear me?
We're still chattering, it sounds like.
Okay. All right, we can hear you downstairs, so if you can keep the chattering down. Okay, so I'm going to call the meeting to order. Everybody's here for the warning which was posted on May 9th, and so I'd like to introduce myself. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Mike McLean. I'm the school moderator, and I'd like to introduce the school board, which is sitting right here. Abigail Pelton is the chair, Daniel Roth is the vice chair, and Rory Russello is the clerk. So with no further ado, let's get started. Article 1. Shall the voters of the Windham School District approve the closure of Windham Elementary School? Looking for a motion from the floor. Okay, there's a motion to move the article as written. Is somebody taking minutes? Those, Mac. Looking for a second. Okay, seconded by Nancy Tips. Okay, I'm going to open the floor to discussion. And for anybody who has a comment or who wants to talk, again, I'm going to limit discussion to 5 minutes. Can we keep the talking downstairs, please? Okay, so opening the floor to discussion and looking for any discussion on Article 1. Shall the voters of the Windham School District approve the closure of Windham Elementary School? Yes, Mr. Bingham. You're going to have to come up and speak into the microphone. I don't think people downstairs will be able to hear you. There would have to be a motion from the floor for paper ballots. The question is, does that include paper ballots? No, this is a floor vote town unless requested for paper ballots from 6 voters.
Check. Yeah, sorry.
Okay. Ms. Tips, if you're going to have to come up to the microphone and speak, please. At the corner of the desks there.
Can you hear me? Yes. It's a little bit high. Okay. I had the impression from emails that were circulating yesterday that there was some suggestion that it might be good to vote for keeping the school open so that it could be opened again in the future. And it seemed to be predicated on the notion that when we voted in March for tuitioning the kids, that it was a temporary thing that was only supposed to last for the coming school year. But that wasn't the case, and I don't think anybody who voted for it thought that they were just voting for tuitioning for the kids for the coming school year. We were voting for it to be permanent. And the thing that's hard for me to grasp is, were we to vote to keep the school open in order to open it again in the future, what we would basically be asking the taxpayers to do would be to fund paying tuition for kids and also fund having an operational school for what would be a diminished number of children, because a lot of kids would be tuitioned because it's very popular among parents and apparently among kids. And so the taxpayers would be asked then to vote to fund both tuitioning and an operational school, which would mean maintenance and staffing for the school. And I don't think that the taxpayers would stand for it, basically, because it would be a very expensive proposition. So I think if that's a reason that you might have for considering keeping the school open, you might want to think about what the consequences would be were that to happen. And I suggest that everybody vote to close the school. Thank you.
Okay, any other discussion on Article 1? Yeah, Mr. Stapleton.
Paul Stapleton, Burby Pond Road. I was under the impression at the March meeting, and maybe I wasn't paying attention, but I was under the impression that it was kind of a necessary thing to fund the public choice option because we didn't have teachers. I didn't think it was a permanent vote. And the second thing, I know you did a presentation. I wasn't able to be there a couple weeks ago, I think it was. And there was a lot of discussion about the budget and the costs of actually keeping the building open. And I was wondering if you could address that. Is this out of order? I'm not sure how this works. I'd like more information. I think the public has a right to know what the true cost of keeping the school open would be if we were to defer this in a year in hopes of keeping it open.
You're asking the school board to address what the cost would be to keep the school open on a non-operational basis?
Yes.
Okay.
Non-operational.
Daniel?
I do think that's probably more apt for when we get to Article 2, which is the budget discussion. But yeah, I can definitely share screen and kind of talk through some of the numbers.
Okay, so Daniel says that's more pertinent to Article 2 of the meeting today.
The reason I'm asking is because if we're going to vote in Article 1 to close the school, and the basis for that is that it's going to be too expensive to maintain, I think it's pretty relevant that we know what the cost of keeping it open is before we vote on whether the school should be closed or not.
Yeah, so our budget does include maintenance regardless. So we want to keep the lights on. We want to make sure that the building doesn't depreciate because that's the main focus. Plus we have other programming.
Dan, could you speak?
No.
There you go.
Okay. Everyone hear me? All right. Yeah, so our numbers do include, our current budget.
Okay.
What's on Article 2 does include the maintenance. So we are non-operational, but what I showed during that presentation is that the tax implication on the maintenance that we have for our building is very minimal.
So whether the school is closed or not, there will be maintenance costs involved in keeping the building. It's a valuable asset in keeping it.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep. So we had a couple of different looks at the cost of what is the value of the building itself. Now, the most relevant one is an AOE report that went through as well as a year-end audit for 23. And it shows that all the assets, so the land, the building, everything else associated with our district is about $500,000. Now that's not fair market, so that's one of the reasons why we're keeping maintenance. We need to keep maintenance to make sure that that doesn't rapidly depreciate, especially over the winter. But also we have some programming that probably folks in this room are a part of. So after school, we have a daycare coming in, we have music classes, events, a worker center, seminars, things like that. So yeah, we're committed to keeping the building open for the public. And one thing, I'm sure this is going to come up, one thing is that we're not trying to compete with the Windham Town Meeting House. So this building right here, we're not trying to compete with you guys. What we're trying to do is make sure that the building is available, especially for children of this district, but also other districts. That's it.
Thank you.
Okay, any other discussion on Article 1? Dawn? Yep, noted. Yep, the point of order, please speak into the microphones. Yes, Howie, please come up to the microphone and speak.
Hi, I'm Howie Iris. I'm a resident and sent 3 kids to that school, and I just want to say I will never vote to close that school. We are entitled to have a school in our town. It is written into the Vermont Constitution that each town maintain a competent number of schools. Whether they operate or not, we have a school, and we're going to be paying school taxes whether we have a school in this town or not. Okay, your taxes it's not like your school taxes go away. You just pay school taxes and that money goes to another town. So I hope that we vote to keep the school open no matter how we decide to tuition kids out of here. Thank you.
Okay, Kathy?
Kathy Edgerly, Fails on Far Lane. So last week I heard from the state treasurer at a meeting at the Windham Regional Commission, and he said there is an uptick in in-migration into Vermont that isn't just COVID related, but it continues into the 2023 census that they were looking at. And why am I telling you this? Because I would like you to please vote to not close the school so that we're buying time for planning. We need to say, would we want to have a school in 2 years from now? And the tuitioning can still go on. We manage our asset, and then we decide what is the smartest and highest and best use of the asset we have. Maybe we find we want it to be a school again. Maybe we don't. But by keeping it operational, we have more choice and more options in our planning. And I don't believe that the cost to individual people is going to be dramatically different regardless of what we do. So I'm advocating time for planning and thinking. The kids would be having their choice of tuition. That will not be impacted, but we will be able to manage our asset with more options. So please vote to keep the school open.
Kate?
Good morning. Happy Saturday. Thank you for being here. I just wanted to, there's so much emotion in this space and about this issue, and I respect it because it's exhausting. And as somebody who wrote an article and who most of you know is really enjoying the ability to have my kids at Townsend, I just want to remind everybody that these choices are fluid, and I want consistency for my kids. So that's why I'm here, because I'm trying to make sure that there is not fluctuation in what we decide, and I really would love to put this to bed. And I know about some of the programming that's going to happen, and it's awesome, and I'm excited about it, and I support it, and my kids are excited about it. And so that in itself is a way to utilize this amazing historic school to do what it's supposed to do, which is teach and educate kids and create a community space. So closing the school sounds like this permanent heavy thing, like we're losing something. And that's okay, whoever feels that way. I don't feel that way. I feel like we have potential to gain something, and that's very exciting. So I just wanted to voice that. It's not quite so binary. So thank you.
Okay, yes, B.
Hi, my name's B. Elias Dam. I moved to Windham about 6 years ago, and since I moved here, the town has been mired in all of this tension and conflict around the school. And, you know, my own opinions on it have evolved over time, and I understand both sides. I understand, you know, the desire from parents, the desire from people who are former parents or parents of former students. But the reality is that it creates divisiveness in the town, and it has been for many years now. And you know, I ultimately want what's best for my children. I have a 5-year-old who's going to be going to kindergarten next year. Originally, I wanted him and was excited for him to go to Windham. I understand that's not a choice anymore. That was not what the voters decided in this last election, and I accept that. I want to now move on and don't want this constant battle of, you know, telling him, oh, well, it might be open in the future, or it's going to be this or that. I want, you know, the divisiveness also as the town to kind of graduate from where we've been and move on to let's plan what's next, let's plan what's best for our kids. And I think the vote reflected last time indicates that many in the town are ready to move on and close the school for what it's been used for historically and open it up for, you know, more opportunities and what's yet to be seen. Thank you.
Meredith? Oh, yes, Crystal.
So I'm not going to speak on how wonderful the school is or isn't. I'm going to remind everybody there is still a lawsuit happening. The state is being held responsible for what happened to our children. So whether you vote to keep this school open or not, as of July 2025, the state has the power to close your school or merge you. If they merge you, I'm going to be fine. I've already chosen Townsend. Many of the people in this room have not chosen Townsend, so they're going to pay the price. So whether you leave it open or close it, make no mistake about it. July 2025, the state will step in and they will nip this in the bud because they're being held responsible.
Meredith?
Friends, this needs to be the last Saturday that we get together to talk about this, because, like, it's gone on long enough. My concern with the whole idea of, like, we could keep it open for the mythical children who might appear in the future is, if we would have to vote again on this every year, I will lose my mind, like, and my stomach lining will not survive. Another thought that I have is, what if the people who love the idea of the school pursue starting an independent school, which has different rules and which you could have more control over, you could pick what you wanted it to be about, and then you could make the school that you wanted and leave me out of it.
Kermit?
Yeah, we keep going around in circles about this school. I'm going to return to the thing I've said every time, and maybe it'll make a difference. I don't even care. In these cemeteries, for the 200 years that this school has been open, how many of those people attended this school or one of the schools that closed what is our responsibility to Windham Town, its history, all the people who've lived here and paid taxes all these years, all the things that have happened? It just feels disloyal. And this politicization of the school boards that's happening all over the country. It isn't unique here, we just don't hear the word woke. But that's what it's about everywhere in the country. And it breaks everyone's heart when you hear that kids aren't getting what they need, and it's very distressing to learn that teachers ended up leaving and the principal left because of the constant harassment of this one team of really disgruntled, unhappy people. And I don't know what's right and what's wrong, but I just feel that to be loyal to the people who are buried in these cemeteries, I think that we have to have more honor and integrity than to fall into the Fox News world of everybody's grievances, what isn't. So, and I hope when my grandkid comes, there'll be a school.
Allison. I call the question. Okay, there's a motion to call the question that requires a 2/3 majority vote. Okay, it's been seconded by Mr. Bingham. Okay. Okay, we're voting on calling the question, which ends discussion, and then we move into the vote. Okay?
Can I say something as the chair?
The motion is to call the question, so you have something you want to say?
I'm just waiting to have an opportunity.
So then this motion that's on the floor needs to be voted down in order for you to have a voice, okay? For you to speak, because there's a motion on the floor to call the question. Okay, so we're voting on the motion to call the question, and that ends discussion. We go into the vote. Just as a note, the chair would like to have something to say, so we can't do that technically until we go past this motion to call the question. All right, so all those in favor of calling the question and ending discussion, say aye. Aye. All those opposed, say nay. Nay. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. So the question has been called, discussion is ended, and we're now going to move into the vote. So I'm going to ask for a show of hands, and I cannot see people in the first floor. There's nobody down there. Okay. So, Maureen, would you help me count hands? Okay. So, Article 1, shall the voters of the Windham School District approve the closure of Windham Elementary School? All those in favor, please raise your hands. Okay.
Maybe I didn't see. Sorry.
Coming up with 64. Yeah.
Mr. Moderator, I would call for a paper ballot. I'm sorry, it's too confusing. Look at people stand up.
Yeah, it might
Yep.
be easier if they stood up.
So I'm not sure that that's in order because we've already gone to the floor for a vote. So I don't think there can be a motion for a paper ballot after we've already started counting the votes. Excuse me. Excuse me. Thank you. Okay, so I'm not sure about that, Carolyn, once the vote has already begun. So,
So if someone in the audience is challenging the question of the ability to read hands,
so if you're challenging the moderator, which is my decision would be not to go to a paper ballot, then I think that requires a 2/3 majority vote to overrule the moderator. Okay, that's fair. That's fair. We can try standing rather than raising hands. So. Okay, I'm coming up with 64, and Maureen agrees with my count. So please be seated. Okay. All those opposed to Article 1, please stand. Okay, I'm coming up with a count of 37 nays. So the ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. Article 1 passes as written. Okay, and we'll move on to Article 2. Yes, point of order?
Yes, I wanted to see if we can change it to be Article 3 before Article 2.
Okay, so there's a point of order. We want to change the order of the articles from Article 2 to Article 3. Okay, and that's been seconded. So changing the order requires a two-thirds majority vote. So does everybody understand what we're voting on? We're voting on moving the order of the articles. Instead of Article 2 voting on next, we'd be voting on Article 3. Okay, so, Mac? Somebody made the motion. That nobody needs to explain their rationale. That it's a motion, point of motion to change the order. So, to suspend the rules. So, it's not, and that's not debatable. So there's no discussion on that. So all those in favor of changing the order of the articles from Article 3 to Article, or voting on Article 3 next, say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say nay. Nay. Okay, so shouting louder doesn't mean that your vote is counts more. So we'll do this again by standing. So all those in favor of changing the order of the business, please stand. Okay, please be seated. Okay, we're still voting on moving the order of business. So all those opposed of moving the order of business, please stand. So I'm going to say that's not a two-thirds majority, so that motion fails. Please be seated. Okay, moving on to the order of business. Article 2. Shall the voters of the Windham School District approve the school board to expend $546,344, which is the amount the school board has determined to be necessary for the 2024-2025 fiscal year? Looking for a motion from the floor. Colin moves the motion as written. Yep, and it's been seconded by Kathy Scott. Okay, Article 2, shall the voters of the Windham School District approve the school board to expend $546,344, which is the amount the school board has determined to be necessary for the 2024-2025 fiscal year? Any discussion? Yes, Vance Bell, please come up to the microphone. Okay, you're calling the question, which ends discussion. So that needs a second to bring it to the floor. Okay, it's been seconded. All right, so no discussion. We're voting now not on the article, but on to end discussion and vote on the article. Okay, does everybody understand? We're not voting on the article, we're voting on ending discussion, which has not begun, but that's okay. Okay, all those in favor of ending discussion and moving into voting on the article, please stand. Okay, please be seated. People opposed to moving the question and who want to move into discussion, please stand. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. The motion carries. No discussion on Article 2. So now we'll move into the voting portion. Okay, there's a motion for a paper ballot that requires, if 6 voters raise their hands, we'll move into paper ballot. Okay, so we're gonna vote on Article 2 and paper ballot. So for those of you who were here at town meeting, you know the drill. That's why we have name tags and numbers. You're gonna come up row by row after I call you, and you're gonna get your piece of paper from the town clerk. Just give us a minute, please, so the town clerk can get organized, and then I'll start with the rows closest to the road. Okay, may I have your attention, please? Thank you. Town clerk is ready to begin the votes. So, Mark Emmons, would you please start? Howie,
Thank you.
you're next.
I think since we're on this,
And then Kathy, if you could just follow. Thank you. Okay, sorry, excuse me. Can we keep our voices down? I just want to clarify something. So this is a yes vote or a no vote. Yes vote carries the budget as written, Article 2 passes. No vote is against the budget as written. Okay? Is that clear? Does anybody have any questions about that? Yes or no? Y or N?
They need to state their name and address.
And you're going, when you come up to the people who are checking in, please state your name and address. Thank you. Excuse me. Excuse me, can we keep our voices down, please? Excuse me. Excuse me, can we keep our voices down, please? Also known as din, I believe, is the word. Is that right? Okay, thank you. Excuse me, may I have your attention, please? Just want to make a quick couple of announcements. May I have your attention, please? For those of you who are here who are not registered to vote, if there are any, you may register to vote with the town clerk today. So if you are a resident of town and you're not registered to vote, you may register to vote right now. Second announcement, there was a couple of things the town clerk asked me to bring to your attention. One was a pair of glasses that was found on Burpee Pond Road. If anybody was missing a pair of glasses, I don't see any markings on them. And then there was a set of keys that say Target that was found on Wheeler Road. So if anybody was missing those. Okay, thank you. Okay, if anybody has not voted, may I have your attention, please? If anybody has not voted at this time, now is the time to come through.
Okay. Okay, so I like or well, I could share. Can you make me? Because you have to set.
I'll make you a co-host.
Yeah. If you ever get back on.
I mean, I got a laptop over there that is running very fast, and is where I admitted you from.
Okay.
So we can do it from there, no problem.
I'd have to like go over there. Yeah.
Yeah, the only problem is getting on the screen, which, you know, with this cable, you can do it from your computer. Otherwise
I'd have to be.
Wi-Fi is like not great here.
Well, if it does come back up, you can make it.
Yeah, no, I'll do it on that computer right now.
Cool.
So this is an adapter to this goes into this course.
Okay, last call. Has everybody voted who wants to vote? This is Article 2. Ellen, have all the election workers voted? Ellen, have all the election workers voted? Okay, so the board, all the board members have voted? Okay. All right, so the ballot box is closed. Please bear with us while the Board of Civil Authority counts the ballots. May I have your attention, please? So this meeting has had a number of firsts for me, and this is unprecedented with me. There were 102 voters, 51 ayes and 51 nays. It's a tie vote, okay? And I did vote, so in that case, under Robert's Rules of Order, hold on, I'll recognize you in a second, Daniel. Under that situation, under Robert's Rules of Order, the motion fails. However, somebody from the body could request a reconsideration of that vote. By my understanding, I'm not recognizing anybody right now, I'm just talking. And under reconsideration, a majority vote, we would reconsider. That motion is debatable, and if people choose to reconsider, then we could vote Article 2 again, okay? All right, so I know, Daniel, you had your hand up. Did you have a point of order?
Yeah, I'd like to revote.
Okay.
And also, I'd like to have discussion.
Okay, so let me bring your motion to the table first, and then that motion to reconsider the vote is debatable, so we can reconsider, we can discuss the motion to reconsider, and then if that motion passes to reconsider the vote, then we would vote on Article 2 again, okay? There's a motion on the floor to reconsider the last article. That requires a second. Mr. Pelton. Okay. So before we vote on reconsidering the article, is there any discussion? The person who made the motion has the chance to discuss first.
Yeah, I think if there's...
Turn your microphone on.
Yeah, in general, I think if there's discussion that needs to happen about these budget numbers and exactly why we do not want to be in the situation of 87% of our last budget, that would be disastrous. And I'd be happy to show you guys exactly why. But we should revote this. And if there is something that the nays would like changed, we can amend. But you guys need to put your thoughts out there, and we need to pass a budget, because we borrowed that entire 87%. That is not a scenario that we want. That is going to have implications for the next 5 years. So maybe some of you without property tax credits, which that would, in my estimation, would be about 30%, but the rest of us, the majority, would have tax credits towards this. It doesn't matter if it's $135, $138, $2, it's all the same tax budget. So I want to hear from the nays. If there's confusion about numbers that we're putting out, put it forward. Let's amend on the floor, and let's pass a budget.
Okay, there's a motion to reconsider Article 2, and it's been seconded. Any other discussion on the reconsideration motion? Point of order.
Do we have to vote on that reconsideration vote in the same manner? Does it have to be?
It's a majority vote. If 6 voters ask for a paper ballot on the reconsideration, they're entitled under state law. Ms. Tips.
Well, I guess a couple of things that Daniel just said, I think are not exactly correct, and I don't know whether this is the proper time.
So the motion is to reconsider the previous, so if you want to discuss that, then please come up to the microphone and
My point was simply that if he was making that.
Can you hold on?
just,
You're on the
yeah,
microphone,
just
so
on the microphone.
You won't be captured on the record.
No, but see, that's not the thing. According to, and I put out misinformation, and I apologize, anyway. But according to Laurie, the issue is not that they would then be stuck with 87% of the current budget. The issue is they would be stuck only being able to borrow 87% of the current budget, and we would have to continue to re-vote until we vote a budget. So if we vote it down today, it means that they can only borrow 87% of the current year FY24 budget, okay? But we have to meet again to vote on another budget. And if we vote, they have to present us and warn another budget. If we vote that budget down, then they have to present and re-warn, and we vote for another budget. So basically, we just have to keep on voting until we have a budget. It's very clear that that's what the state expects us to do. So, I mean, I'm not saying this apropos of whether you should vote for this budget or not, because I honestly, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that it's not 87% of the current budget. That's your borrowing, not your spending.
I agree.
Okay, I thought you were saying that if we vote the budget down, they only can spend 87%. That's not the case. It means they can only borrow 87%, and we have to meet again to pass another budget. So basically, the punishment for voting this budget down is only that we then have to meet again and vote again and meet again and vote again until we finally have a budget.
Mr. Pelton?
Can I respond to
I personally think that we need to finish this, right? We need to finish the process. We can't keep coming back here and dealing with this over and over again. Let's come up with a budget. We have a floor vote for a reason. We're here. We can talk about anything anybody wants to talk about and get it done. If people want to change the amount, clearly there are 51 people that do not like the current budget, and that's fine. If you have a better recommendation, let's bring it to the floor and let's vote on it as a group of individuals that are here. I also would like to recognize that there is at least one person in this room that did not vote. That person would be the tie-breaking vote. Thank you.
Mr. Roth?
All right, so in Article 1 discussion, we heard from Meredith just how exacerbated she is about we need finality, and we need to make sure that we get this vote done, and we don't need revotes. How is that different for this vote? Do you really want to come back to this room every week? Is that something that's attractive to you guys? To be away from your families? If there's something that you guys want out of the 51 that voted nay, speak up. I can present the numbers, I can go on the screen, and I can go through the exact information that I went through on the informational meeting. But I understand that it is up to 87%. But that is still borrowed money. That is our debt service. Our debt service looks somewhere between $35,000 and $50,000. Next year, we're going to have a deficit that we have to pay for of $30,000 off of FY23. So we're already walking into pretty shaky grounds. The reason that it would be disastrous for the 87% is our district would bankrupt. We would have to borrow the money. We don't want that. None of you want it because we all pay for that. It's not cheaper taxes. Over the long run, over 3 years, over 5 years, we're paying for that.
Mr. Ayers?
I want to thank the school board for working so hard to put this budget together. And I want to comment on how disrespectful it is for the people of this town who elected these folks to work their butts off to come up with this budget and now disrespect them by voting it down. Did any of you guys who voted this thing down show up at a school board meeting to have input into this budget? We've now voted to close our school. We're on the hook for tuition. That's the long and short of it. It's nothing complicated about it. We have to pay this tuition. We don't vote a budget down. We have to borrow money to pay the tuition, and the interest on that money we're going to borrow is going to be on your property taxes. So now that you guys have voted to close our school and put us on the hook for private school tuitions for all these kids, watch your taxes go up. These guys are doing their best job to make sure that is minimized, and that's the budget they came up with. So I hope that some of you folks reconsider what you're voting against when you vote against this school budget. Thank you.
So again, the motion is not on the budget itself. The motion is on reconsideration of Article 2. Kate? Okay. Is any other discussion on reconsideration? Ms. Tips?
As I understand it, though, the issue is they wouldn't necessarily have to borrow. The problem, I think, because we have $90,000 in surplus, which according to Laurie Garland, we're allowed to, it's in a checking account, they're allowed to spend it and then pay it back once we vote on a budget. Eventually, we will have to vote on a budget. So I still think that the only club that should be held over your head is you're going to have to come back and vote again. But the club about the paying the interest, I just don't understand it. You've got money. You've got money that you can spend. You don't have to borrow. You have to wait until a budget is passed and then spend that money that's authorized. So the whole interest thing doesn't make sense to me, Dan.
Abby?
So in the discussion of the budget, this budget is crucial to get passed. Some form of a budget should be passed today. I am frustrated with the amount of people in the community saying that their choices are in the best interest of the children. Voting a budget down, putting our community in more risk financially, when this is an opportunity that the board has been dedicated to trying to figure out the best way to support the kids in this community. And it is, and I appreciate Howie saying that, it is absolutely heartbreaking to time and time again have people trying to hinder that positive progress. We need a budget. We need a budget to take care of the kids. We're already shipping the kids, we're already telling the kids we're not gonna have community here in Windham for them. They don't have space here. Find their space outside in other communities. Now we're not gonna pay for that to even happen? Come on, get it together, people. We need a budget. Thank you.
Aaron?
So I guess this would go with the point of order, but if we were to reconsider voting on a budget or reconsider voting on that budget or change that, wouldn't we want to do Article 3 so we would understand those costs more to possibly change that budget? So would it be possible to change it again to vote for Article 3 before reconsideration?
So
I can answer that.
As far as a point of order, I'll answer that question. That there was already a motion to move Article 3 before Article 2, and that failed. So we're going to have to vote on the reconsideration vote first. Depending on the House votes on that motion, we'll either re-vote Article 2 or Article 2 will fail, depending on the motion.
Can the reconsideration vote, does it need to be now or can we do it after?
Reconsideration vote is on the floor. We have to vote on the reconsideration vote in order to move forward. Okay, Mr. Dunkel?
We call the question on the reconsideration vote.
There's a motion to call the question on debate of reconsideration vote. It's been seconded by Mac McCoy. And so that's a 2/3 majority vote in order to end debate on on the reconsideration vote, okay? We're voting now on ending debate. Everybody understand? Okay. All those in favor of ending debate on the reconsideration vote, say aye. Aye. Any opposed who want to keep continuing debate, say nay. Okay, motion to call the question is passed. Now we're going to vote on the reconsideration vote. Okay? Motion to reconsider Article 2. It's a majority vote, not a 2/3 majority vote. It's already been brought to the floor. Okay? The motion is to reconsider Article 2. That's the motion we're voting on. Does everybody understand that? Which means we're going to have to vote on Article 2 if the motion to reconsider passes. Okay? All those in favor of reconsidering Article 2, say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say nay. Nay. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. Motion to reconsider passes. We're going back to vote on Article 2. Article 2. Shall the voters of the Windham School District approve the school board to expend $546,344, which is the amount the school board has determined to be necessary for the 2024-2025 fiscal year? Somebody needs to bring that motion to the floor. Okay. It's been moved by Mac and seconded by Howie. Okay. Discussion. Carolyn.
Moderator, I would like to hear the presentation of Mr. Roth.
Okay. All right. Dan?
All right, so here's the fun part, is that the only All right, how's everyone doing? Hopefully we can get through some budget numbers and go through some forecasts and talk civilly about this, because I honestly believe that we need to pass this vote and we should not kick this can. And Abby brought up a good point. If you care about the children of this district, you care about the economic impact on the families. And we will go into debt service and we will have to pay it off, regardless of what Nancy is saying about the $95,000, which we'll get to. we're going to have to pay for that. And I don't want that on our bill for the next 3 to 5 years. And so let's talk about some of the numbers. So these are our 3 budgets. We talked, Lori did already a pretty good summary of these numbers, but we'll get into actually what's in this budget, and all the way down to the tax rate. So how much is the tuitioning a portion of the tax rate? How much is the building maintenance? How much is XYZ our pay, which I'm not taking pay. So like Abby said, we've tried to bring this down as much as possible. So this is a number that we're sitting on. This is what was warned. The 5.
Can you give us a rough idea of what the numbers are? Just they don't have to be like too pinpoint, but we can't really see the numbers from over here.
Oh, okay, yeah. So let me bump it up a little bit. We'll try to make it as big as possible. All right. So what was warned was the 546. And this is how much that we're able to raise against that 546. What taxpayers actually pay, it's interesting because I think this is the number that we should actually report on the warning is the 515. Now going back to it, that 470 right there, we would have up to 87%, but we would still, we would be able to cover the district in case of tuitioning, which the fixed costs are already above that 470. It's above the 87%, so we would have to cover. But as you go further down, some of these numbers are just in aid of calculating the tax rate. So you have the yield right here. Higher it goes up, the lower the tax rate. That's because it's the denominator. But as you go further down, that's your cost per pupil right there.
Which line is cost per pupil?
Line 16.
Yeah, line 16 right there is your cost per pupil. So as you get further down, assuming our CLA is 95%, 165 is your take home. So you would pay out of your house site value, which we'll get into some of the appraisals, because I do have the appraisal data in here. You would pay, for every 100, you would pay that tax rate. And I do have a calculator. Now that assumes that's 22 students. Now let's stop there, because per public records, we have 16 families with a possible or a potential 26 students to cover within this district. That's not pre-K, that's K through 6, exactly who would go into Windham. Now, do I know how many students we're going to tuition? No, I don't. But neither does the Windham Choice Club. Like, they don't know either, because it's a big question. But we should do the estimate that is somewhere between. We should have enough room so that we can pay our bills. And if we have a surplus from it, good. We want a surplus. If it doesn't actualize to 22, okay. Then we have a surplus and we can use that money next year. Now the other parts of this is that I did do a forecast. So you see, and the forecast wasn't too hard because we don't have many line items anymore. So I did it to FY26, FY27, and FY28. It seems essentially SU assessments and tuitioning are the majority of our costs. So we pay into a pot with the supervisory union, and we get services back. Special ed is probably one of the biggest within it, but also technology. We're not planning to have the building past FY25, so actually within FY26, 27, it's assumed that we don't have the building maintenance at all. But that is a very small fraction of our taxable amount, and I'll get into that as well. It's assumed that essentially there would be one student increase. What I based that on was other districts. I looked at the pre and post of they had a closure, they no longer have an elementary school. What is the effect on their student count? with move-ins, because when we're talking about 22 students, we're giving ourselves wiggle room for the eventuality, and I say eventuality because this is based on other districts like Holland, Morgan, North Bennington, that these places have had an increase of move-ins because it's attractive. It's attractive to come to a town that has open choice. And so the numbers are raw that you see there. It's about 3%, 2%, 5%. I took it exactly from the average of those districts and more. And then I just kept some numbers static. So you start to see exactly how those numbers change over the years. So going back to it, now here I'll go after the CLA. And let's just say that the CLA stays the same, 165, 171. That's if we just keep on with the same, have pick up a student every year, et cetera. Now this is the 87% scenario. I think this is where it gets more interesting because I want to exactly go through exactly why we would have an issue here without saying exactly too many times. So you could see in right here, 87%, so 409. The take home is at 383. We're not going to have building maintenance, I would suspect, but I also put into a calculator that we can adjust these numbers to kind of see what that looks like. If we were to have legal, if we were to have building maintenance, if we were to have X, Y, Z. But let's just assume for now that that's our tax rate. It's 132, or after CLA, it's 138. So that would be your take home for 87. Now that seems attractive, right? And I actually show the tax difference. So that'd be 27 cents less than the other tax rate. Now let's put a pin on that. This is assuming that our fixed costs would be 20 students instead. Let's shave off a couple of the students. Let's not do legal, which, to Crystal's point, we still have legal bills. In fact, the reason that we have a deficit of that 30,000 that we have to pay for in the next year is because of legal bills. And we're continuously getting legal bills. People bring up statutes. They threaten legal action. As a board, we have to respond to it. We have to make sure that these articles are warned properly. And there's questions about even scheduling of today. All of that took legal because they brought it to us. So 20 students, no legal, no maintenance, no transportation stipends. But as you can see, our fixed costs are already 483. I'm actually going to pan to the right a little bit. So there's our current surplus. This is where it also gets interesting because that 95,000 is in capital reserve fund. So to Nancy's point, it's not freely usable for operations. Now, perhaps that we could do a floor vote and do an article where we transfer the money. And in fact, if we're going to go the 87% route, we should definitely tap into that 95,000 because we're going to need every penny. But this is a deficit that we're running into. So about 30,000, 29. So as we go through, our budget plus the surplus, assuming that we tap on that 95,000 against the fixed expenses, we're already at 19. But now, let's look at that FY23 audit deficit. We're under 10,000. The other thing is that we set aside 40,000 for a very good reason within that capital reserve. The reason that we voted for the capital reserve is that we need a new bus. We'll probably need a new bus in the next 3 years. So going back to economic impact, if people are voting against this budget, well, they're voting against transportation that the district has to provide. Now, we could take away transportation stipends, and we could take away a bus, and just put it on the parents. Does that sound right? It doesn't sound right to me. But regardless, we have to set aside that 40,000 for the bus, but also for FY26, because we're taking away our surplus, so we have to embed in our budget now, we need to cover the bus, is really the bottom line. But the other parts of this that I found was that borrowing. So I already talked about how, okay, even with the borrowed money that we get, it's borrowing. So taxes will catch up to it, and the taxes, the revenue, will pay for that 87%. But we're gonna have to pay interest in the meantime on it, off of $400,000. Let's just say it was 5%. It could be lower, could be higher. But already we're sitting at about $35,000 that we need to put into some type of a debt over the next 3 years. Could be 5 years. It depends on how we want to work the numbers, and we'll work with the SU. But this isn't, already you're talking about something that is not attractive to our district. We're not gonna want to run in the red, if we can help it at least. But already that number jumps up. So going back to it, it's the exact same assumptions, the 87% scenario versus the
Keep going.
Okay, cool. So the same assumptions that went into the forecast, so FY 26, 27, 28, at the top for our proposed budget is the exact same assumptions. Building gone in 26, 27, 28, yearly inflation and SU assessments, and then the number of students increases. But critically, we start at 20 here. But what if we're wrong? What if the amount for the 87%, what if it's 22? What if we need legal? What if we want to have the transportation stipends? What if we want to make sure that parents that are outside the bus route have access to a little bit of economic boon for them to drive to wherever they need to go, such as mountain school? We have plenty of those parents right here in the room. I'm sure that they would appreciate it. I know some have said that they don't want to take that money. I don't see why. They could use that money. And when it comes down to it, I want to make sure that future students could use it. If you want a tuition, if we're going to be a tuition board, then you should be able to drive to wherever you need to, and we need to cover part of that cost. Otherwise, what are we doing? By taking away options. So already, you're talking about starting at 44,000 under, if we do have 22 students, if we need legal costs, if we want to include transportation stipends, which legal and transportation stipends are a pretty small number, honestly, out of the amount. It's not a large gain in the budget. But now, we're servicing up to $60,000 per year. That's over 3 years, could be over 5 years, like I said. But regardless, it's going to have that impact. And looky there, 27 less for FY25, jump up to 21 cents difference between our proposed budget and the other budget, the 87% budget that we have here, based on these assumptions, 19, 17. Overall, it's 31 cents higher than the previous years. So our 87 is not an attractive scenario in any way for anyone within the room. But then when we get down to it, so these are the costs, that same information that you had before, but I built a calculator. So the Vermont tax website has a calculator on it, actually a couple of calculators that explain the tax rate. You plug in your tax rate, you plug in your own personal information, and you get to that data. So you can get to exactly what your final tax is. So all I did was use that same methodology, but just went through each of those scenarios that I talked about, the proposed, or if we were the 87%, what that would look like for 26, 27, and 28. Now, the numbers that I assumed here, now you can put any number in, so it could be 300,000, Yeah. Oh, yeah, thank you.
What's the 300,000 number?
Yeah, so I'll get to that. So I actually looked, so we're all probably aware that appraisal came through, and we know exactly what every person's parcel within town is. We know the house site value, and which is critical to the actual taxes. And I have that data. And so what I did was, out of the residents, I took out, say, land only, or business or public services, things like that, and I took an average of that, and an average of the prior value. So I plugged it back into this calculator to say, okay, most people within town are going to have something around 328,000. You might be higher, you might be lower, but regardless, the other part is income. So I looked at census, and I took the average or mean income that we have within town. I think it's pretty high. Based on Vermont taxes that we saw for returns, the average is actually lower, but let's just say it's 87%, or $87,000. And now let's just run it down. So, what's that?
I just said you people are rich.
No, I agree. I think it's way too high, but let's just say that's the average income. Even if it was 89,000, even if it was 328,000 that your house site is valued, let's go all the way down. We have each of the categories. So out of that 165, 3 cents would go to building maintenance. 4 cents would go to bus transportation, legal fund, miscellaneous. Most of these are like audits and supervisory union, stuff that we pay into the pot for. Special ed, transportation stipends, and critically, notice the building maintenance is taken off, for the rest of the years. I blanked out at 87% because it's going to be flux as to what we're actually paying for those years. But as we go down, there's your per 100. So once again, you take your house site value and divide it by 100, essentially. So for every 100 of your house site value, that's your taxable property. So in this case, it would be 3284. So your tax bill would be 5429 based on your income. But what's being left out by the Windham Choice Squad is this property tax credit right here. And look how flexible it is. So next door to this other number is at 87%. So reminder, 165 for our proposed budget and 138 for the 87%, which puts us into debt. But look how it flattens with the final education tax outcome. Now, once again, this is from our government website, our state website. It is highly scalable to your income. And if your income is less, anyone in this room, if your income is less than 90,000, even if it's higher, there's still tax credits. It wouldn't be as extreme as here, but if you have, just based on my numbers for average income, average house site, and let's look at some of those incomes. This is actually the census data right here that I pulled from an API. That's 70% of the town under $100,000 yearly income. And like I said, based on so that's the national census, but the Vermont personal income taxes, they say it's less. Let's say about 64,000. Do I know what the truth is? Probably somewhere in the middle. But regardless, the majority of us in this room are not going to pay any difference between 165 and 138. So voting for this budget covers us for what we need for the district and does not put us into debt. And that's something that I want to avoid because, yes, with tax credits you will have roughly the same tax outcome, but over the years, your income may change, your house site may change, and it might appreciate into your bill. Everyone in this room is going to be paying some amount for that debt service. And I don't want to be financially impacted by that. I don't want the families, as a family, within town with a kid, and I don't want the other parents to. That's what I'm talking about the economic impact to the families within town. I cannot ask people to, do you want to? Yeah, if there's questions, I can definitely address questions.
Daniel, I wonder about, so you brought up the cost per pupil. Is that going to be enough to tuition the kids to the various different schools?
It depends. I mean, if you're going back to it, it's hard with the fact that I have to blow it up so much, but going back to it, if we did take away legal, transportation stipends, let's say 20 students, we would barely cover it with the budget and with the educational spending that ultimately you have to pay. But when you factor in other stuff like our deficit coming up, like the fact that we need a bus, the fact that 87% is actually borrowed, so you'd have to pay off the interest for a year, yeah, it would not cover it. So that's where it gets into debt service.
But would the budget that you're proposing cover the tuition cost? Because it seems like per pupil costs were at about $15,000. Don't some schools charge 17 or 18 or more?
Well, that's based on, I mean, one, that's against the revenues. So our proposed number is against the revenues and then down to the educational spending. But yeah, it would. Yeah, it's a long and short of it. Yeah, of course.
Just remind people to use the microphone if they have questions.
Oh, I was told you should use a microphone if you have questions. and I'm going to have to ask you to use a microphone if you want to. Okay, then.
No, we can't capture it on the video, so you need to come up here so they can get on video.
My question is, see, it's too loud. My question is that, do we need the budget to pass in order to get that homestead reimbursement from the state according to our income?
The point of the calculator, and just going back to it,
Or does one have nothing to do with the other?
it's basically based on your own finances, so how much your house site value is.
So that has nothing to do with the budget passing?
Correct, but it would still bring us down into debt service. So it's kind of a question of why would that be necessary to do if 70% of the town, at the very least, even with rough numbers like this from census, from the Vermont government, why would we elect as a majority to put the district in uncertain waters and make us have to take out loans? Yeah, please. Yeah, if you don't mind.
Oh, I don't mind. I'm the turn.
Yeah.
So my question is more about the logistics of the tuitioning kids. So as I understand it, kids who go to the regional district schools like Newbrook or Townsend, their 5th and 6th graders go to Leland and Gray. Is that correct?
That's six.
Six
and
not
on,
fifth.
I
Okay.
believe.
So then, if our kids tuition to those schools in 6th grade, they would go to Leland and Gray. Would they be covered because we are members of the Leland and Gray? No, that's not. I just
I
wanted
mean, you
to
can
know
take
if
this, Abby, if you want.
we still would tuition them as if they were going to Townsend Elementary, or
Yeah, this whole budget is based on not just Elm, but our obligations to sending kids to Leland and Gray.
Okay.
So So going back to it, and let me just go up to the proposed budget. So you see how there's, see how there's a split? So we have our budget.
Okay.
Baked in is a fixed number based on the union who sent, we merged with others. So that 57 cents right there, we don't control that.
Okay.
We send kids to Leland Gray just like other districts, and then they pop out the tax rate.
Okay.
So it just gets added to our proposed budget, essentially.
Okay. I just wondered. Thank you.
No problem. Yeah, go for it.
I'm not sure if you were hinting at middle school. So people will be saying Windham now has choice, but not for middle school. So if you're sending your children to mountain school, regardless of where choice is, we're a part of the supervisory union, middle school will not be choice until something is changed with that. So not sure if that's what you were getting at, but just to make sure that that's clear with everyone, middle school is not choice.
Yeah, and that's worth bringing up because we have an arrangement with other districts, and that's the reason why, is that contractually we send our kids to Leland and Gray, regardless of if we're open tuition. And so sixth grade rolls around, even though we're open tuition, we're sending kids to Leland and Gray. So we wouldn't have the option to tuition kids from sixth grade on.
Okay, so there's been a motion to call the question, and Ellen is seconding that motion. So what that does is that cuts off debate, and then we move into the voting portion. So just to clarify, we're going to vote on calling the question, ending debate, and moving on revoting Article 2. Does that make sense? Okay. All those in favor of ending debate on this, say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say nay. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. Debate ends on Article 2. So I'm still looking for a motion for paper ballots if people want that. Okay, so Abigail is making a motion for paper ballots. That requires 6 voters. So people who want paper ballots, please raise your hands. Okay, that's definitely meets the requirement. So we're going to do the same thing again. So please let the town clerk set up for about 5 minutes, and then we'll move in to voting. Thank you. Okay, town clerk is ready, so please proceed in an orderly fashion. Thank you. Okay, may I have your attention, please? Has everybody voted who wants to vote? Okay, if you have not voted, please come forward and vote. Okay, may I have your attention, please? Have all voted who wish to do so? If there's no one else who wishes to vote, the polls are closed. May I have your attention, please? Okay, we do have a definitive result, so it looks like we had 90 voters this time. 64 voted yes, 26 voted no. Article 2 carries. Budget passes. Thank you. Okay, so we're not done yet. We're still on Article 3. Okay, Article 3. If Article 1 passes, which it did. Yep. Article 3. If Article 1 passes, shall the voters of Windham School District grant general authority to the school board to pay tuition for an elementary student at an approved independent elementary school in an amount not to exceed the average announced statewide elementary school tuition. This authorization is in addition to the March 9th, 2024 electorate authorization for the board to pay tuition to public elementary schools. Looking for a motion to bring the article to the floor. Okay, David Cherry, is somebody taking notes? Okay, David Cherry made a motion to move the article, and it's been seconded by Michael. Okay, Article 3. If Article 1 passes, shall the voters of Windham School District grant general authority to the school board to pay tuition for an elementary student at an approved independent elementary school in an amount not to exceed the average announced statewide elementary school tuition. This authorization is in addition to the March 9th, 2024 electorate authorization for the board to pay tuition to public elementary schools. Any discussion? Kathy?
It's like 18,326.
So the question was, what's the statewide average? And Mr. Roth says it's about $18,326.
Yeah, and I mean, just furthermore, it's pretty close to Townsend. So I think Townsend is a shade higher. So.
Any other discussion? Yes, Dave.
Just FYI, by state statute, if the school is closed, which we voted in Article 1, you are obligated to pay both elementary and independent schools. So we don't waste a lot of time voting on this one.
Yeah, just to add, he's 100% correct. So by statute and law, we're obligated, regardless of tuition requests or whatever scenario, we would have to honor any approved independent school, given that we are not running a district school. Really, this is codifying that into an article, but as far as it goes, it's still something that the board not only has the power, but we're obligated to do. So.
Okay, Antia?
Can that be extended to high school? Because there's a high school choice as well.
So my understanding for high school, so Leland and Gray, the arrangement that we have, it's with other towns, so it's a little more complicated because of that. So like if we wanted to get away from having to send our kids to Leland and Gray, we would have to get the other towns to also agree to it. Or basically any change to that contract would require, like if Leland and Gray merged or if any other thing happened. So to answer your question, it's complicated and it would require the other towns. So.
No, I'm not saying that Windham should exit the contract, but by law, the 9th graders through 12th grade have school choice as well. It's only middle school that is bound to the contract.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
There will be tuition payments going to students of the elementary grades. Could that be extended to the high school grades as well? If a student decided to go to a private school?
Yeah, I see what you're saying now. I mean, my understanding is that if you're not running, so it'd be the same as elementary, we're not running an elementary school in this fiscal year, or we don't plan for the next fiscal years, but it would be the exact same. We don't have within our district a high school, so it would be open.
I would not speak on that.
Well, it's still, okay. It sounds like we'd have to look into it, but.
We have a school that, we don't, while it's not in our town, we have a school district, sorry. While we have a school that is not, the school's not in our town, so it's a little bit different, but we do have a district that we send to. So in order to, you do have school choice, but you have to apply to that school, and I would not be quick to say that this would cover tuition for that, because we are only voting on matters of the elementary school. But maybe that's something that Paul could bring to one of his board meetings.
Paul, do you want to
He's our Leland and Gray rep for Windham.
That'd probably be helpful.
Well, let me just say this, there's been a steep learning curve in this whole way things are done here in Vermont, but my understanding is that, this meeting and this board is responsible for the elementary school. We're part of the West River Education Union for high school. So I don't think that we would have any say in that. That's my understanding. Does anybody?
Yes, Carolyn.
So for informational purposes only, we do have public high school choice. We do not have for that for 7th and 8th grades. And we do not have, they will not have a choice for private school. Londonderry does that. They have choice for high school. We do not. And this will not change that.
Okay, any other discussion on Article 3? Michael? Okay, there's a motion to call the question. That ends all debate. Dave Cherry seconded. Okay, so now we're going to vote on ending debate on Article 3. Requires a 2/3 majority vote. All those in favor of ending debate on Article 3 say aye. Aye. Any opposed say nay. Ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. Question's been called. So unless there's any motions for a paper ballot, nobody wants to do that? Okay. We'll try a voice vote. If that doesn't work, we'll do division of the House. Okay. Article 3. If Article 1 passes, shall the voters of Windham School District grant general authority to the school board to pay tuition for an elementary student at an approved independent elementary school in an amount not to exceed the average announced statewide elementary school tuition. This authorization is in addition to the March 9th, 2024 electorate authorization for the board to pay tuition to public elementary schools. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed say nay. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. Article 3 carries. Now I need a motion to adjourn the meeting. All right, there's a motion to adjourn, seconded by Pat McLean. All those in favor of adjourning say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, thank you very much. Congratulations.